It is anchored on three key pillars: inclusive transition, technology and innovation, and enabling frameworks, and will be implemented through targeted approaches, including member-led action groups. The CSET Youth Action Group will focus on driving action under the three CSET pillars, in particular innovation in technology for clean energy and advocacy for greater youth engagement in the development of policies and regulations for sustainable energy and the energy transition. The United Nations has predicted that over 68% of the projected increase in the global population will be living in urban areas by 2050. Over 50% of this growth is expected to take place in the Commonwealth, with more than 60% of the Commonwealth population under the age of 30. The Commonwealth is committed to investing in young people and placing them at the center of sustainable and inclusive development. Young people across the Commonwealth can play an important role in driving the change and innovation required to meet global targets, leveraging their skills and competencies, technological know-how, and strong networks. It is therefore imperative that they are engaged in global efforts to advance sustainable energy transitions and sustainable urbanization, and actively participating in finding solutions to these global challenges. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I challenge young Commonwealth citizens here at this auspicious event and across the Commonwealth to step forward as champions and leaders that they are to drive action across these two initiatives. I have no doubt that by the time we gather again like this for the next Commonwealth Youth Forum, we will hear exciting news about the progress that has been made under these initiatives, driving the change we need through innovation, technology, entrepreneurship, and sheer determination, the hallmarks of this young generation. Once again, let me thank you on behalf of the Secretary General who could not make it today, and I wish all of us a very fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arjun, for reaffirming your trust and confidence in the Commonwealth youth. The next speaker would be Mr. Peter Auburn. Mr. Auburn is the Vice President of the Commonwealth Association of Architects and also the representative of the Commonwealth Association of Architects at the Commonwealth Sustainable Cities Initiative. Mr. Peter Auburn, please.
Well, thank you very much. I'm still pinching myself. I can't believe I'm actually here in Rwanda at last for CHOGM 2022. It's been a long time coming. Thank you, Rwanda. Excellencies, Deputy Secretary General, thank you very much for this opportunity to present the call to action and the Sustainable Cities Initiative. The call to action is at the heart of the Sustainable Cities Initiative. It really came together at CHOGM 2018 when a group of us got together and had to think about how we could actually engage with a decade of action to achieve the global goals. At that point, it was 12 years away. Now it's only 8 years away. We all know, and you'll have seen this diagram so many times before, that each of the global goals are in themselves vitally important, that they're all interdependent and indivisible and apply equally to all nations. But some of us would argue, and research from Leiden University suggests, that SDG 11, to make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable, is the only goal which links significantly with all the others. So if we can solve sustainable cities, we can make a significant inroad into other SDGs. And as the Deputy Secretary General has mentioned, UN Habitat project that between now and 2050, there will be an extra 2.5 billion more people living in cities, 95% of that growth taking place in Asia and Africa. What's the significance of that for us here today? The significance of that for us here today, again, as the Secretary General said, is that nearly 50% of that growth is going to be in Commonwealth countries. That's 1 billion more people living in cities in the Commonwealth in the next 30 years, 28 years, actually. And the other significant fact, of course, is that 95% of the cities most at risk from climate change impacts are in Asia and Africa, continents in which many of the Commonwealth countries are to be found. So how do we create cities which are going to be inclusive and equitable? How do we create cities which are going to be safe and accessible to all? How do we create cities that are going to be resilient and adaptable to climate change impacts? And how do we create cities that are going to be sustainable and promote economic prosperity, which we've been hearing about throughout the course of today? Well, of course, it's partly through planning and design. And this needs to be seen in the context of surveys that have been undertaken throughout Commonwealth amongst architects, engineers, and planners, which reveals, unfortunately, that in many of the Commonwealth countries that are urbanizing most rapidly, there is a critical lack of capacity. I'm not going to single out any one country here, but the blue lines in this chart represent the ratio of architects per thousand head of population in each Commonwealth country, and the orange line represent the rates of urbanization. So you can see here there's a total mismatch between where built environment professionals are and where the urbanization is taking place. So this is a critical and a defining issue for the Commonwealth, for us here in this room. So how can we deal with these issues? Well, this is why we came together as a group, because we recognize that no one constituency can solve a problem and a challenge and an opportunity of such magnitude, such complexity, and such scale. So we have come together as the Commonwealth Association of Architects with the Commonwealth Association of Planners, the Association of Commonwealth Universities, of course, representing academia, the Commonwealth Local Government Forum, with huge support, I have to say, from the government of Rwanda and the Prince's Foundation to launch this call to action. And we will be having a program of events throughout the course of this week, culminating in the Business Forum, where we will be engaging directly with heads of government. The three objectives of the call to action are to do these following things, which is to bring a greater focus to sustainable urbanization in Commonwealth policymaking, to mobilize the power of the Commonwealth network to engage in the challenge of sustainable urbanization, and to develop a program of practical action to deliver sustainable urbanization throughout the Commonwealth. Now, again, as the Deputy Secretary General has pointed out, 60% of the Commonwealth population are under the age of 30. So it's vitally important that we have the leaders of tomorrow discussing with us the challenges of today. Because if we do what we've always done, we're going to get what we always got. And that isn't going to create the future we need. So it's with great pleasure that I hand the baton, which is symbolically held here in the call to action, to Alafian to launch the youth group.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you for your support for the network since 2020. It's my pleasure today to deliver the keynote address on behalf of my colleagues who are steering committee members of the Commonwealth Youth for Sustainable Urbanization. Good evening, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, fellow youth leaders. Our distinguished speakers today have highlighted the importance of youth engagement and involvement in all areas of life. References have been made to the fact that over 60% of the Commonwealth population are young people under the age of 30. And as Peter has mentioned, nearly 50% of the projected urban growth will take place in the Commonwealth. Buildings and the construction sector account for 40% of energy and process-related emissions. More importantly, it is noted that over 65% of the 169 targets underlining the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are linked to the territorial and urban development. In this unprecedented era of rapid urbanization, unplanned urbanization can lead to severe consequences such as increased crime and insecurity, inequality, environmental pollution, vulnerability to disaster, and inadequate basic shelter. Though urbanization is a major threat to achieving sustainable development, sustainable urbanization presents an opportunity for improved security, improved equality, economic growth and development, climate change action, and resilience through collaborative and innovative actions by all sectors and actors. The Powering Our Common Future Urbanism in the Commonwealth Youth Manifesto that was launched at the 2018 Commonwealth Youth Forum recognized the unique perspective, the willingness to learn, and a commitment to drive and disentangle the complex issue facing nation states in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. It advocated for the active engagement and involvement of young people in the creation of their future cities and the elimination of gap between the young and the experts by establishing strong relationships with local institutions and communities. A unique aspect of this network, reflecting the call to action mentioned by Peter, is recognizing the need to foster interdisciplinarity between youth interested or beginning their careers in sectors that are related to sustainable urbanization. In particular, built environment sectors, such as the technical professions, the local government, and the academia. Intergenerational knowledge sharing is also a key principle that will be guiding the operations of this network. The purpose of the network is to empower Commonwealth youth to support, contribute to, and advocate for sustainable urbanization in the Commonwealth, and to look for ways in which cities and human settlement can better reflect the needs of the youth. The network defines youth as high school, college, and university students, young professionals, and young city leaders in local government, and young people interested in urbanization. It aims to empower Commonwealth youth to build their capacity of the youth, to advocate for sustainable urbanization, to shape the future of and redesign their environment. It also aims to ensure that the young people can communicate the importance of youth-friendly and youth-aware sustainable urbanization. Another main objective is to integrate a diverse youth voice into Commonwealth policy, programs, and also to advocate for strengthened youth leadership and integration into decision-making to support sustainable urbanization. The complexities involved in managing cities and human settlement requires a collaborative approach. Therefore, the network will provide an opportunity for young people from across different disciplines and constituencies relating to sustainable urbanization to come together for knowledge sharing, active participation, and to exchange ideas, tools, and learning. In terms of implementation and action, the network is very much action-oriented. It aims to proactively collaborate with relevant stakeholders to implement innovative solutions, and also to generate a pipeline and entrepreneurial environment for projects. Finally, the network aims to ensure that the young people and the young professionals will have the opportunity to participate in specialized working groups in order to address the complexities of sustainable urbanization. My fellow steering committee members from over 6 disciplines and across the Commonwealth have been actively involved in setting up the network that is committed to the active involvement and participation of young people and young professionals in designing and building cities and human settlement that responds to the immediate needs of the youth without compromising the future. It is therefore with great pleasure and delight that I invite you to join the Commonwealth Youth for Sustainable Urbanization. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Minister. Good evening, Deputy Secretary General, distinguished participants, and my fellow speakers. It's a huge pleasure to be here today to introduce the Commonwealth Sustainable Energy Transition Agenda and the Youth Action Group. Just a few minutes ago, we heard the Secretary General, and of course also Peter, talk about the huge gap to potential that we see when we want to champion, say, urbanization, sustainable urbanization across the Commonwealth and globally. The same applies for sustainable energy. Today, it's a huge pleasure for me to mention that the action group that we're putting forward together today will be driving action under 3 key pillars. One is to drive innovation in technology for clean energy, to make sure we have a lot more advocacy as far as youth involvement is concerned, especially in the development of policies and regulations for sustainable energy and also champion the energy transition in the Commonwealth. So in principle, the aims of the action group is to empower Commonwealth youth to support, to contribute to, and to advocate for sustainable energy transition across the Commonwealth, and to help achieve the 4 key SDG 7 measures and targets, which include electricity access, clean cooking access, renewable energy, and energy efficiency, and that we meet the goals and targets that we've set for ourselves by 2030. The CSET aims to achieve these goals by driving on 3 key pillars. One is inclusive transition. This way, we provide opportunities for young people across the different disciplines and constituencies in the Commonwealth to share stories, knowledge, and experience, to take on leadership roles, and be fully integrated in the sustainable energy decision-making that we have as equal partners, and then advance sustainable energy advocacy while doing that, and also drive action locally and across the Commonwealth. Second key pillar, technology and innovation. This way, we want to encourage young people to build capacity. The gap to potential is huge. The engine is there. We've got the youth. We need to grow that capacity very quickly. When we do this, we build on the available STEM skills that we've got and expand that to other related disciplines as well, so that we can drive action a lot faster. We also want to support and incentivize innovation in technology and facilitate access to resources for the development of youth-led replicable solutions. There are several solutions that are happening in different pockets across the Commonwealth. We want to bring all of this together so that we can get a lot more clean energy solutions and innovations on the table replicated. The third key driver is enabling frameworks. We want to proactively connect youths across and beyond the Commonwealth, support active involvement of young people in sustainable energy governance, policy development, and implementation. As an inclusive, action-oriented working group, there is a huge opportunity for young people and young professionals to contribute to the activities of the action group. So I look to you. Every one of us that's going to come to this stage to speak today will say exactly the same thing. We look to youths in the Commonwealth to raise a hand, put forward your ideas, recommendations, suggestions, innovative solutions, and more importantly, be actively involved, because now is the time to take charge of our future. Thank you. I'll call up Victor as I hand over the baton to him. Please, Victor.
Yeah, good evening, Your Excellencies, the DSGs, and invited delegates. Mine is 3 minutes. Just to recognize that young people are resourceful, they bring skills, innovations, they tend to be tech-friendly, they have time in terms of thinking about intergenerational mindset. They're more impacted from today's actions that compromise their ability to meet their need tomorrow. But also we've heard of the numbers. They have the numbers on their side. 60% of the population in the Commonwealth under the age of 30. So clearly we can't leave them behind. At the Commonwealth Secretariat, we have been working in partnership, knowing that the problem we face is a global problem and require concerted effort. So we've been working in partnerships. The CSET team, which is the Commonwealth Sustainable Energy Transition team, has been working very closely with our sister group at the Commonwealth Secretariat, the youth team. We have been working across international organizations with Sustainable Energy for All and supported young people to actually participate in raising awareness of sustainable clean energy transition. In May, we had a team of young people in Kigali who actively participated in supporting these initiatives and taking this message in their countries. So we value very well partnership in addressing this global challenge. So the launch of the The launch of the CSET Youth Action Group within the Commonwealth covers a wide range of demographics across the regions. And the aim is to drive global solutions for sustainable energy development and climate change. With those words, I would like to welcome my colleague, Elijah Fisher.
Thank you, Victor. And I would like to welcome to the stage participants in a chat that we're going to have this evening. We're just going to be talking here as a family, and we'll be talking about ways in which we will move forward these two initiatives. So I'd like to invite to the stage to join me in this chat the Honorable Minister of State for Infrastructure, Ms. Patrice Uwase. I'd also like to invite back on stage Mr. Peter Orban, Mr. Christopher Chukunta, Ms. Mandisa Ntimkulu, Mr. Martin Foda. Thank you. So I'll start with you, Honorable Minister. And my question is really this, because we're very keen to have young people involved in the governance around sustainability, around sustainable energy, and driving these initiatives for sustainable cities. And I'd just like to ask you, in your role as the Honorable Minister of State for Infrastructure, and if you permit me to say, and as a young person yourself, how do you think that young people can engage better with the government in the development of solutions to meet our sustainability challenges?
Good evening, everyone. Indeed, we see the youth at the center of these transitions we are talking about here. The youth have got the innovation, creativity, as well as the energy we need to drive these efforts. We see us sitting at the table, like we say this morning, but also driving the work behind the scene in making sure that the sustainable cities we talk about do happen, because we are the ones who are going to live in these cities. So we should take center stage in building both the policies in how, policies around how cities can grow sustainably, but also really the work that needs to be done for us to get there. So as an example, in sustainable energy, we are dealing with, solar power as an example. And this is a very fast-moving technology. We've seen the youth really work hard to participate in how we build the businesses around that. But really, there's also more work that needs to be done on that front of thinking even through the cutting-edge technologies that we need to have so that solar power can be stored sustainably, as an example. So we see the youth really taking that stage. And like you said, myself as a young person in government, I get to represent them all with the pressure that that carries. But I know that I have to be an active player in how policy and actions and programs and the projects are done so that really the sustainable cities we aim to have can happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Very well said. And that's such an inspiration to the young people who are gathered here, that we can get a seat for the young people around the table, and we should indeed. So my next question, I think it's to you, Peter. How do we ensure that knowledge is transferred both between disciplines and also across generations?
So before I answer the question, let me just say that as I've been looking at the audience, I've been realizing that this conversation is going to be heard by different people from different constituencies and interpreted in different ways. So the first thing I would say is engage with your constituency, engage with your institute, engage with your community, engage with your institution, your academic institution. So first of all, engage with your constituency. And I must also caveat what I've just said by acknowledging that some of our institutions, have developed some bad habits. We're very specialized as professions. And certainly in the UK, I have to say that some of our professions aren't as collaborative as they need to be. So the next thing I would say is, and then develop the spirit of collaboration, which I've heard repeated time and time again throughout the conversation this afternoon. And the third thing I would say, of course, is join us, because the answer to your question is exactly what we're here to do today, which is to bring particularly young people together, but also the institutions, the Commonwealth institutions together, because everything we need is here. The Commonwealth is such a rich resource. It's such a rich network. Join us and we'll do this together.
Excellent. Yes, the word collaboration, working together, everyone around the table. Yeah. That's actually exactly what we need to move these sort of initiatives and then to answer the challenges that, we face as a nation or as the globe and as a Commonwealth. Generally, it's collaboration, everyone doing their piece and everyone having a seat around the table.
Yeah. Could I just add to my answer by saying, I'm very conscious that we have a young audience, but we also have some older representatives present as well. And we need to engage with you. So it needs to be a two-way movement. And, and we welcome that.
Thank you, Peter. And my question to you, Chris, what role can networks such as the CYSU and the CSET Youth Action Group play in accelerating sustainable solutions to our sustainability challenges, in accelerating the energy transition? What's the role that networks play beyond being like, it's not just a talk shop or just gathering together, but what is the actual role practically? What can they do to accelerate the solutions?
So one thing that has come out clearly over and over again is that the gap is huge. There's a huge gap to potential, right? And the other thing that I think has also come out very clearly in the conversations this evening is that we have the capacity in terms of numbers of youth to actually get going and to drive to close the gap. What these groups that we've just set up today will be doing, in my mind, and of course in the minds of the steering committee that I speak for, is that we'll be facilitating every opportunity that we have to get all of the hands that are willing and able to actually be on deck to work. And how we do this is by connecting youths that are willing and able to other youths that are willing and able to exchange ideas. We also get access to funds that are available, both private sector and public sector funding. We also get access to capacity building opportunities. If youths and young professionals don't have the capacity to deliver, then of course they wouldn't be able to put their willing and able strength and might to work to drive the change that we want them to drive. So we're going to make sure that they've got the resources, they got the access to the knowledge sharing and capacity building events that will make them able to actually contribute more. And then the last thing I think I would mention is there is nothing stopping the Commonwealth youths from actually contributing. So we've got already a very vast network of potential opportunities. This network that we've just set up will be helping to connect youths to those opportunities. And in three key areas. One will be, first of all, knowledge exchange among youths. Secondly, would be availability of all of the resources, be it capital, be it technology, be it innovation that is already on the table. And then lastly, and more importantly, policy framework. So we've got Patrici, Honorable Minister, here. We also have from within the Commonwealth the opportunity to network even widely among other policymakers. We want youths to be involved in driving that policy because we will take charge of our future. Yeah?
Thank you, Chris. And now, Mendisa, as a member of the steering group for the CYSU network, how can young professionals collaborate to accelerate sustainable urbanization?
So the heart of this network is to bring sustainable urbanization through collaboration, as opposed to focusing on just one discipline. So what the Minister of Youth and Culture mentioned earlier is that if you want to go far, you go together. What we want from the youth is the youth to come together as professionals from different disciplines, regions, and sectors for knowledge sharing of best practices. We want the youth to take charge of their future by taking what we've learned from each other and taking it back to our different countries or our different region. So we don't want take, for instance, I'm from local government, but I shouldn't just focus on local government. I need to understand what engineers are doing so that I can understand what I need to do to ensure sustainable urbanization in my city. So basically, youth needs to come together to collaborate with knowledge sharing, abilities, and skills. We need to take all the opportunities that we get. We need to stop procrastinating, and when we're given the opportunity, we need to take up space.
I like that. We need to take up space, and we need to make space first for you guys, and then you need to take up space.
Yes.
Excellent, very well said. And last but not the least, Martin, also as a member of the steering committee, why do you think it's important that we work in an interdisciplinary manner to address these challenges? What does that bring to the table?
Okay. When we talk of urbanization, we are talking of cities. And if we are talking of cities, be it in rural or urban areas, we are talking about designing and managing spaces where we will live. So designing a city or managing a city is not just a matter of some individuals or some professionals. It calls the particularity of many kind of professionals. The architects, the planners, the local governments are all engaged when we are talking about the design and the management of the city. So we think it's very important. Our thought is that it's very important to work as a team because architects alone will not have the great idea. I'm talking as an architect from 237. So 237 is Cameroon, let me say it simply. So I'm talking as an architect. So architects alone might not bring that special solution that will make our cities sustainable. Architects will need to work hand in hand with engineers, with planners, and with local government and other professionals to make this big dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's here having this chat with us. And thank you to all for listening. The words that I put down here as we were listening to all of you speak was connection, collaboration, capacity, and contribution. I've made my 4 C's there. And I just say to everyone here, if we can make this our mantra, I think we can really then make these things happen, these initiatives, be not just nice words on pieces of paper, but we'll see the action that we all want to deliver the future that we desire. Thank you, everyone.
I think we've taken away a lot from this conversation. One for me is what Mandisa said, let's take the space. Let's take the space and let's deliver. A key function for this network is that what we will be doing is evidence-based. Our colleagues from the ACU, from the Association of Commonwealth University, is not here today, but definitely our work would definitely come from an evidence-based approach to how we deliver. It's with great delight I will present to you how you can get involved with what we're doing. The questions have been coming forward, how can we get involved? And the best way to get involved is actually to just scan that code. You can bring out your mobile devices, please, and if you scan it, you'll be able to connect with the network and with the action group. We can take a few seconds to do that. And just to prove that we are not just a normative network, we have a gift for you, which you will be receiving, and I'm sure my colleagues have started sharing that, on how to learn more about understand more about sustainable energy. And that's just an introduction to part of what we will be delivering as a network and as part of the action group's outputs. There is an expression form. Once you scan the code, there is an expression form where you can express your interest in joining the network. You can also choose the action group you'd like to be a part of. And as part of the call to action, we are launching the call for logo today. I'm sure you would have noticed there isn't any particular logo for the network. And this is deliberate because we want it to be very much collaborative and we want it to involve the youth from all sectors and not just the technical professions alone. So we're launching the call for logo today. Once you would also see the application form there. You don't need to have any special graphic design skills or any special architectural skills to be able to design our logo. We just need you to show us exactly what you think Youth for Sustainable Urbanization can deliver and what that logo means to you. The guidelines on how to deliver that is also included on that link. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm. I'd like to call to the stage the speakers. Just to identify the representatives of the Commonwealth Sustainable Cities Initiative that are here today, we've introduced Peter earlier. Mr. Peter Ogbon, could you please come to the stage? We also have here with us Kelly Moore, Miss Kelly Moore. She is the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Association of Planners. Kelly, please come to the stage. We also have here with us Elena Mohammed. Elena is the President of the Commonwealth Association of Planners. And we have with us Beth, and Beth is representing the Association of Commonwealth Universities. She's representing the Executive Director, who is unable to make it here today. I'd like to call to the stage the Deputy Secretary General as well, Dr. Arjun Sadul, and the Honorable Minister, Ms. Patricia Iwasi.